Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Big Three, the podcast where we unpack the biggest stories and insights shaping influencer marketing and the creator economy. I'm your host, Ceci. Joining me today is Eddie Pietzak, Senior Vice President of Digital at CESD Talent Agency, one of the leading talent agencies working across both Hollywood and the creator economy. We wanted to talk to Eddie because he has spent his entire career watching these two worlds from the inside, and right now we think they're coming together in ways that matter for everyone in this space. So today we'll discuss what the Hollywood talent model actually got right, why the mentorship approach it was built on is the model the creator economy is finally ready to adopt, and what that means for creators and the people building careers in this space. Eddie, welcome to the podcast. Really glad to have you here. How's everything going?
Things are going well. Thank you. Excited to be here. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yeah. We've actually been working together for a while now. It's the second time we're connecting on a Zoom call, so I'm excited for this conversation. Eddie, obviously, I just introduced you to in a very high level, but I'd like to hear how you introduce yourself these days, how you describe what you do.
Sure. Well, I'm the head of the digital department here at CESD Talent, where all my clients are content creators, every vertical, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, podcasts, you name it. And for me, my main day-to-day is just working with my clients, ensuring they have successful careers, doing whatever they're doing. And it's involved in all aspects, whether it's, doing brand deals, endorsements, sponsorships, syndication, doing other projects, everything under the sun. There's never a dull moment.
Yeah. Well, and that's the fun thing about this industry. It moves very fast. It's exciting. I can't believe it's already June, almost June now.
Two of
Tell us,
us.
yeah. Tell us what is your role asking the most from you right now? What are you most focused on?
I think the main key thing for me and with my clients is really focusing on providing revenue opportunities for them, whether it's in the brand deal space or branching out to other areas of expertise. The main focus is like, okay, we're making content. How can we prolong the careers of these creatives and let them sustain in the ecosystem?
Okay, Eddie, and another quick question. I know you've been in the space for a while now. What is getting you most excited about the industry these days?
I think for me, it's kind of the realization that things are really truly happening and the recognition that content creators are getting. It's no longer just a niche fun thing that you're like, oh, just people making videos on their phone. Like, no, this is a real career with real dollars tied to it. And even just like this past weekend, you
100%.
have a YouTuber like Curry Barker with his obsession, with his film Obsession. A horror movie did really well as opening, but more importantly, the second weekend had a 30% increase in the box office, which is unheard of. Horror usually drops like a stone the
Yeah.
second week. So the fact that you have a YouTuber, much like Curry, much like Markiplier a couple months ago with his film that got released, the convergence is happening and just the excitement around it is just huge. I mean, the number one streamer is not Netflix, it's not HBO, it's actually YouTube, and that's huge.
Exactly. Yes. Eddie, well, before we get into today's topic specifically, which I mentioned before, which is the Hollywood model, I would really love to, understand your thesis about the creator economy. Where do you think we are right now? I know that you mentioned before the industry is finally sort of hitting hyper speed. Tell us, what do you mean by that? What does that actually look like from where you sit? And what do you think it changed the most in the last couple of years?
For me, and having had a front row seat, this pretty much from the early days of it, going from the early MCNs and, YouTubers were like their thing, but what do we do with them? And getting brands involved in this space. But again, going like, we're working with influencers, but their thing, but what do we do with them? I think right now we're at the point now where there's a real respect and appreciation for the marketing aspect of working with content creators, but also the content themselves. It's a thing where it's now rised up in the pop culture where people are watching content continuously. They're no longer watching late night TV shows. They're scrolling on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube on their phones at night. And I think that pop culture moment's kind of huge because it just kind of shows you where the eyeballs and attention are being directed. I mean, even if you go take the recent, Netflix and at the time Warner Brothers merger that didn't work out, if you listen to what Netflix is saying, like in terms of an antitrust, they're not worried about the other studio. They're worried about YouTube, and that's where the attention is being distracted. They felt that's what their competition is at and why they had to
Exactly.
merge. And that note to me is key because that just shows where this industry is now, where if that's viewed as competition as a model, that shows that that's really the 500-pound gorilla in the room.
Yeah, absolutely. Eddie, let me just follow up with a quick question here. What what changed from the recent years maybe surprised you the most?
I think the biggest change for me that I've observed is seeing the mainstream audiences, start to accept more of the content creators. Seeing, celebrities when they're doing the press tours for their movies or TV shows, going on like Chicken Shop or going on like Hot Wings and seeing that kind of emerge into space, having the level of success and appreciation and respect for content creators, not everything in all areas, like from Mr. Beast on down and whatnot, just like seeing that just emerge in the pop culture where people know who these people are, where they have their communities and their engagement and their power social relationships where people go out and support these projects. That to me is really the big change compared to like say even like 10 years
Yeah,
ago where you had a channel, you had views, but like what you did with it really rested on your shoulders. Now there's armies of followers and engaged fans and audiences that will follow you through and through.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, Eddie, if as we start to dive into today's topic, I want to go back to your background for a moment because I think that's really where the key of the conversation is. And again, that front row seat that you mentioned before, you came up through traditional Hollywood talent representation at a time when digital creators were not really on anyone's radar. You sort of mentioned that before. Tell us, what did that world understand about building a career that the creator economy is, still trying to figure out?
Yeah. So for me, for my background, I kind of put my career into two different buckets. Part one, for me, started off in the traditional Hollywood model. I'm so old, YouTube was a thing, but like influencer wasn't a word. Content creator wasn't a word. So for me, like when I started off in the traditional Hollywood model of in the talent agency world, in the mailroom, actually delivering mail, which is the entry level way to kind of prove yourself in the system, getting promoted to assistant, then getting promoted to junior agent where you're handling your own clients. And then for me, moving over to being a talent manager where I was there for 6 years. That model to me just proved, the real time honored tradition of being an agent or a rep or manager, whatever, all in the same bucket of working with their clients, understanding them, being their advocate, fighting for them. That really is a mentorship model that's imparted to me by the mentors who I worked for, the agents and managers who really trained me and taught me their craft. To me, like I take that to what I'm doing now with my current clients, understanding them, who they are, how they operate, how their brain works, how we can help monetize them and really adapting to their schedules and needs. Hollywood's done a really good job of that in the past, especially like if you go anywhere between like the 80s and the early aughts model, where your agent's your person. Like they're the person that not only doesn't get you jobs, they find you doctors, reservations, bail you out of jail in some extreme circumstances. And I think that always on model was kind of lost in the creator space, where a
Yeah,
lot of managers and agents that I talk to, and even like clients that I work with now who come from other shops, they always tell me it's like, look, I can't get a hold of my manager, my agent after 6 o'clock, or they don't answer my emails on weekends. And what I learned coming from the Hollywood model is like, you're always on. If your client calls you at 6, you're taking the call at 6. Like you have to constantly be on the lookout and aware of it. Because if you're not, the next guy down the street will take that client and work with them.
100%.
So it's that hustle culture that to me, like I always loved, enjoyed. For me, like this job is my passion. And to not really see that in some of the competitors here, like I view it as an advantage for myself because it's like, well, look, I'm killing myself every day for my clients. And if you're not going to answer an email after 7 o'clock at night because, whatever your reasons are, like your loss is my gain.
Yeah, yeah. Eddie, okay, let's go back to that comparison that you were making between Hollywood and the creator economy model, if you would. Do you think that gap is closing now? Do you think that's starting to happen?
I think it's closing. I think people are catching on. Especially when you realize that there are other competitive models. A lot of the traditional Hollywood agencies are starting digital departments or have started them and are doing well in those areas. And I think that trickle down effect of that model is working to them. Versus, you have some smaller folks who are just getting the space. Maybe someone's in their early 20s where they don't really have the understanding and appreciation of like, what does it mean to service? It's one thing, any person could just close a deal. Like that's fine. You get the right
Yeah,
number and do whatever you can. But how do you execute it properly where your client is satisfied, protected, covered, and runs with a smooth process where there are no hiccups? And I think that kind of gets lost in the sauce, where I would argue a traditional agency model of mentorship, of training, really kind of hones you in to catch those details. Really, that attention to detail is kind of key here at the end of the day. If you're not focused, laser focused on, the deal points in a contract or the execution of the campaign, then you're not doing well by your
yeah.
client and you're failing.
Yeah. Eddie, you mentioned before the way that you're working with your clients these days after years inside those traditional Hollywood representation model. What have you deliberately carried over into how you work with your creators today? And is there anything from that model that you're intentionally leaving behind?
Yeah. So what for me, the things I'm carrying with me, I would say is accuracy over speed. It's fast
Okay.
responses to my clients. A big complaint I always hear from people is like, again, like I mentioned before, I never hear from my agent. I don't know what my agent's doing. I don't know what my manager's doing right now. For me, it's like I will respond to my clients when they can. I make sure that everyone gets a follow up by the end of the day. No one is left hanging. You're not waiting for me to get back to you. Even if you ping me on a weekend, I may not respond the second you respond, but I will get back to you in a timely manner so you are aware of it. So for me, it's having that sense of urgency, but really I've carried over more so than anything else. Additionally, compared to that too, it's also the aspect of having accountability. Like for the way we work with our clients, they are aware of everything that we're doing. There's a full dashboard that shows every interaction we're doing with their brands that they're working with, with the partners that we're engaging with. We're talking to them every single day. And then from there, just tailoring it to like what are their exact needs. Some people want weekly check-ins, daily check-ins, monthly check-ins. It's really building a model that works for our clients. There's no cookie cut here.
Okay.
There's no factory formula. It's tailored to what are your needs and how can we kind of put ourselves in there. And that really is how what I would argue is Hollywood's done really well. It's like you adapt to the needs of your client. Whereas a lot of shops I've noticed today from talking to other, agency owners and managers, they treat it like a factory, like assembly line. Look, this is the 9 to 5. We do the deal. We move on to the next, and like that's fine, but that's not sustainable, especially if you don't have the passion for representation to grow with the clients that you're working with and truly believe in them.
Yeah. Eddie, let me ask you something really quickly here. What do you think needs to happen for this to change? I mean, for us not to be having the same conversation about what talent management is not getting right these days.
Yeah. I think there really needs to be a mentorship model that Hollywood does really well. Like, for example, like I
Okay.
mentioned in my career, like I started off in the mailroom. You're at the very bottom of the pile but you're expected to know everybody, learn everything, read everything. I mean, there's legendary stories of like David Geffen when he was in the mailroom, like, going in the stairwell and reading people's mail and delivering it. And the idea is just to learn the process. And I feel like if you're just a young manager setting up shop, are you fully aware of the things that you're working for your clients? Do you know to ask for, T&E when you're doing travel stuff for your client? Do you know what clauses to ask for in contracts? Do you know how to properly service a client that's the best of their needs? And I think that's kind of lost a little bit. Whereas like for myself, like I didn't know those things coming out of college. I was trained in those things. I was trained how to service a client, how to talk to them, how to engage them, how to manage their expectations, how to talk to them as a creative, but also as an entrepreneur as well too. And I think for us in the creator economy, there really needs to be, I would argue, more of a mentorship model when it comes to raising the next generation of agents and managers. It's
Okay.
something that we take very seriously here at CESD. For us, it's the same kind of model. Like, the assistants work with their agent helps raise them up, to get to the point where they're hip pocketing their
To
own
invest
clients.
in that.
Exactly, exactly. So the idea so that eventually that junior agent is able to stand on their own 2 legs, have a roster, and then join the team properly. But more importantly, they're trained. They're not doing something by the seat of their pants. They have someone helping if needed. And it's just really, in my opinion, the benefit of the client because it shows they're protected. Someone is learning the process. Everyone's riding together, and it really just kind of works out in the end.
Absolutely. Well, Eddie, let's get more into what this actually looks like in practice, because again, I think this is where it gets really interesting. How do you think the work of representing creator talent fundamentally changed in the last few years? What do you think looks completely different today compared to when you started doing this?
Yeah. I think in the early days, a lot of it was very much focused on, brand revenue, which is fine. I mean, look, it's still a very key part of the industry, working with the brands and those relationships. The thing that's really changed more than anything else, and this kind of goes to the point before of like the elevation of content creators in pop culture, is like, okay, you have a certain creator that's on the up and up. It's what is your job right now to then elevate them? How are you thinking outside the box? Like anyone could do a brand deal, of course, goes without saying. But are we working with someone where, hey, look, is there a book in them? Is there something that maybe we should find them a good literary agent to help partner with
Yeah,
and get this out published? Hey, are we doing something, again, to the point, like Cory Barker, are we doing now professionally produced films? Are we then helping them negotiate the purchase of that with focused features and structuring that deal? Are we, is there sizable enough following where like maybe we should do another revenue stream by starting a podcast where that could be something else that we can kind of integrate with? It's coming up with the creative aspect where to kind of figure out with your talent where do they want to go and how you can kind of drive the car and design the map to get them there. That I feel probably wasn't available in the beginning, only because the resources weren't there. Like I mean, in the early days, if you had someone on the up and up, like I think it would have been very hard to do a situation to get them a movie, a book, a product launch, and that's really more common now where you kind of can explore those things because
yeah,
the market dictates that.
absolutely. And tell us a bit. a bit about what the relationship with the talent actually looks like day to day, and what are the conversations that you're having with them.
Yeah. So I would stress that no two clients are the same, no conversation is the
Absolutely.
same. But
Yeah.
more importantly, look, for me, my day, I'm on the West Coast here in Los Angeles. I'm up at 5 or 6 in the morning, and part of that is I'm talking to my East Coast clients because that's when they're up. It's having those early conversations, reminding folks when content is due, giving them updates on their contracts, what the red lines were, the priorities of the day, so to speak. From there, the conversations really go into, okay, we're working on our active slate of projects. What are we going to focus on next? What is the content looking like? Are we in a slump in views right now? What are some creative ways we can kind of, tackle our content to diversify it? Are we starting new channels? Are we exploring long form right now? For me, like, I think the two buckets really comes down to the execution of the campaigns and work that we've committed to, and then also the roadmap and planning for where do we want to go next? How are we going to get there? How are
Okay.
we going to plant these seeds essentially? And that's really more of a strategy session. And then if you want to add it for fun, the rest of the job is, part-time therapists, pouring, spilling tea with each other, sharing
Absolutely.
funny TikToks and just, enjoying the industry. Because at the end of the day, it's fun. We're
It's
making
fun.
really fun videos. Exactly.
Yeah. Eddie, we've been talking about the Hollywood mentorship model for a bit now. And I want to go deeper into something that I don't think we fully covered yet. The model is built around developing someone before the big opportunities arrive, not just managing them once they actually do. Do you apply that same philosophy with your creators, and what does that actually look like in practice? That journey of taking them by the hand and guiding them through the journey.
Yeah, so we do. So look, for us at CSD, we have, large scale creators who have followers in the millions. And we also have folks who, do not, who are under the million threshold. But those kind of folks were they're on the up and up journey. We do a very hands-on mentorship approach with them. We're working with them, trying to get them to the next level. At the end of the day, it comes down to the client that we're working with, what kind of content they're making, how frequently they're doing things. At the end of the day, I always frequently say, I make suggestions, but you make decisions. And I am in the business of trying to make the proper suggestions and help guide folks in the right direction to get where they need to go. So that mentorship, that growth that we are doing here is really coming down to going like, okay, if the goal is to generate X amount of money a single year, these are the things you need to do. I'm not saying you have to do these things, but this is what we would recommend to get to that kind of point. If the goal is to do X project, this is what I would recommend for us to get there. So for me, it's managing the expectations, but providing a realistic roadmap of understanding how to get there. So if you have someone who's got 50,000 creators, 50,000 followers on like YouTube, and they're like, look, I want my own licensed, product. It's like, okay, let's get there. But right now, today, it's not going to happen. It's nothing against you. I'm in the interest of managing expectation to go, look, the following we have right now does not make financial sense for a company to put time, energy, and resources into you to do a licensed product because it probably will not work to the expectation of both the brand and
Mhm.
yourself. But it's getting them to a point where like, okay, look, if we hit this certain mark, or we see this certain trajectory, or this certain growth is there, absolutely. We can have that conversation, and we have 5 people off the top of our head we can reach out to about that. Let's make it happen. But this is how we get there.
Okay, Eddie, and how do you figure out what they are actually capable of versus where they are right now? How do you know? How do you guide them through that? And what are the conversations with them like?
It's honest conversations. It's understanding what their focus is, where they want to go, and what the path is. I call them state of the unions essentially, where we try to have a big meeting every quarter to understand, okay, this is what we learned this past quarter, this is what we did, which is where we want to go, how are we going to go about doing that. And once we get understanding of like what their focus and dreams are, like that's my job or any agent or rep or manager to go and help execute that. It really comes down to like I can't tell you what to do. Like, and then by the way, you shouldn't
Yeah.
let me tell you what to do. It's the part of the appeal of being a content creator is that you don't have anyone telling you what to do. There are no gatekeepers. You control that. But I view myself as an extension of my clients, whether it's a capacity of deal maker or even someone like on the operations level or even a friend for some of my closest clients that I work with. It is my job really to help guide them to get them there in a realistic manner. And we do this by open conversations, communication every single day. The managers, agents I talk to, they go, oh, I don't talk to my clients. I just mostly just do emails. That to me makes no sense.
Uh,
I'm talking to my clients every day. We are texting, we are calling, there's constant emails back and forth. Like
yeah.
it is a nonstop communication barricade. At the end of the day, my voice is shot because I'm talking so much to these people, but I enjoy it. And by the way, that's
I
the
love
job.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, but let me ask you this. Obviously, the mentorship model requires a lot of patience, a lot of long term investment, as we discussed, in a space that moves as fast as the creator economy does. How do you protect that approach? What do you do when, the pressure to move fast maybe conflicts with what the creator actually needs?
Yeah. You have to move fast with the space essentially. So for me, that comes down to timely
Okay.
responses. You can't sit on things. You have to move just as quickly. That means sometimes working weekends. That means sometimes working late. That means sometimes working early. That means sometimes working on vacation because the industry doesn't stop. There is no off cycle. Maybe like during like, the end of December during the holidays, things kind of quiet down. But like, I can't tell you a single point in career where there's like a slow period because if it's slow for one person, it's busy for another because every vertical has their own
Exactly.
cycle, has their own marketing cadence that they follow and whatnot. So I think to kind of keep up with things, it's like you have to move fast and you have to move fast with accuracy. And that's really the big story at the end of the day when it comes to work with our clients is like, if we're not moving fast with you, then we are failing you.
Okay. Okay. Next question, Eddie, for you. Obviously, Hollywood has always had formal systems, for developing talent before they are stars. The creator economy never really built that. If you were going to build it, what would it look like?
Oh gosh. So I think to build a quote unquote star system like in for content creators, I think we're kind of getting there. I think when you have folks like, like Mr. Beast where they have their own TV shows and products and whatnot, I think that's the start of the star system where things are kind of really start going towards. And you're gonna start seeing more of that in the coming years, which is a good thing. I think what we need to do as professionals in the space is just elevate our clients and build this ecosystem where there is a
Yeah,
star power by having, conversations like this or interviewing our quote unquote celebrities and putting them forward and celebrating them and having them appear at major pop culture events, whether it's like the Met Gala or the Oscars or whatever sporting event you have. Is treating them the same as we do musicians and artists and actors, and just having them part of that category, part of the conversation.
absolutely. Absolutely. I think we covered a lot of ground today, Eddie. From when the industry is heading to what the Hollywood mentorship model actually looks like in practice. But if we zoom out, where do you think that the talent management space is headed in the next few years? And do you think the Hollywood mentorship is actually ready to truly hold up in a space that moves this fast? I think
Well,
I already know your answer, but yeah, go for it.
Well, for me, we're definitely gonna test that theory at CESD for the mentorship model. I mean, I'm proud to help train the next generation of agents who are gonna be working in this space, and I really do feel confident in the work that we're doing here and working with the young folks on our team to help elevate them there. Do I think this is gonna, in terms of like where this is gonna go in the industry? I think this model will be adapted more. I definitely see there are a lot of creators who get frustrated with reps that are not, again, like I said before, not responsive, not doing the job, a lot of fluffing and BSing. And I think that just eventually gets smoked out. And I do feel the managers and agents who are trained in the craft and art of representation will rise to the top and people will flock there intentionally. And I really do think that you're going to have that calling where there'd be more of a prestige element and professionalism to the space that naturally will come. And by the way, naturally came in the Hollywood model too, way back in the early days of that.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm really excited about to see really this kind of like formalize and really solidify as business.
Absolutely. Eddie, okay, to close us out, if you were talking to a creator today who wants to build something, that truly lasts, what is the first thing you would tell them to change about how they think about their career?
The main thing I would tell them to focus on is like, think of your career essentially where you want it to go, what you enjoy doing, and how we can apply that together. If you really truly enjoy short form content and that's really, your bread and butter, cool, great. Let's keep doing that. But if you want to have a longevity in the space, like what more do we do there? How do we expand upon that? So I always challenge my clients I work with, it's like, okay, think out of the box creatively. Like you're doing this today, but it doesn't mean doing this today forever. 3 years can be totally
Mm,
different. Your format can be different. Your life could be different. The platforms could be different. I mean, even a year ago, we were talking about TikTok not even existing. So, like, if your whole focus is just going all in on TikTok, I would argue that's a really poor
yeah,
strategy. So, the main thing I encourage with my clients to think about is, diversification of everything: content, revenue, time, energy, team, all of
absolutely.
that. If you were not diversifying, you were not scaling. If you're not scaling, and then you were stagnant. And if you're stagnant, you may not be here in 3 years because there are folks who I work with, who I see out in the field, who are doing those things, and those will be the creators of tomorrow. And if your intention is to be a creator of tomorrow, you have to apply those and really truly do the grind,
Yeah.
do the work, and do it 120%.
Eddie, let me ask you a quick follow-up question here. Have you ever had it when a creator came to you and said, "Look, I'm happy just doing YouTube. I don't wanna, build a business. I don't wanna build a brand. I don't wanna diversify." If so, how did you navigate that conversation? Because I think that there's a lot of creators, right, that just enjoy producing content and that's it.
Support it. If someone to come to me saying that, I'd be like, great, cool, let's keep doing that. But then let's think of ways to make it sustainable for you, where you're able to enjoy that and make sure that it lasts in the long run. Not everyone has to be a YouTuber. Not everyone has to start a podcast. Not everyone has to have their own merch line. So if a person's really content making the kind of content that they're doing, great, cool. Then my role now is to then look at that and go, great, how do we sustain this? And how do we build it in the ecosystem so the expectations of what you're looking to do with this are managed where it's not a chore, where it's not a job, where you can still have fun with it. And also treat it as a sizable business.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Eddie, I think this was a great conversation. I don't know if there's anything else that you want to share with the audience before we wrap things up. Any final comments, final thoughts?
I think my final thought is that, like, I think everyone listening here, this is a very exciting time to be in this industry. I feel the growth trajectory where things are going, the respect and appreciation for the art of content creation are really coming to light. And I'm just excited to see where this goes in the next 5, 10 years, especially as new generations who grew up with this kind of content are really coming of age into it now too. And even like, older generations, are now consuming content regularly. I mean, the fact that my mother can watch a YouTube video and share it with me, that didn't happen 10 years ago. So I think to me that just shows how the culture is permeating a little bit. So I'm just
100%.
excited to be in a space where people are really truly excited by this, where, social media is becoming media. And it's not just like its own separate silo,
Yeah,
it's all part of this deconstructed ecosystem. So it's just exciting to be here.
100%. Well, Eddie, thanks again for being here, for a great conversation, for sharing your perspective with us. And to everyone listening, thanks as always for tuning in into the Big Three. We'll be back next month with more conversations and insights from across the creator economy. Bye, Eddie. Have a good one.
You as well. Thank you so much for having me.